In the last video, we talked about how modern economic thinking can distort Kharis and how we instinctively read reciprocity as transactional because that's the world that we live in. But there's something underneath that, and I think it's something even more fundamental that can really shape how we misunderstand these things. Modern people have been taught to think in either or categories. Either something is heartfelt or it's obligatory. Either something is joyful or it's formal. Either something is about love or it's about duty. And the thing is, when we bring that either-or thinking into ancient Greek religion, Kara stops making sense. This isn't just about religion either, this can be seen everywhere in modern life. We're taught that if you do something out of obligation, then it doesn't really count, like it's not authentic. Real love, real devotion, and real gratitude are all supposed to be spontaneous. They're supposed to come from the heart without any sense of duty. Feeling obligated is seen as a problem, and it means the relationship isn't genuine. But when we look at the ancient Greeks, they didn't see these as opposites. Obligation and affection were interconnected. A relationship could be both a serious obligation and a source of profound joy. You could honor someone because you were expected to and because it brought you delight. We can take xenia, guest friendship, as an example. If someone showed up at your door, you were obligated to offer them hospitality. This wasn't optional. Zeus Xenios, protector of guests, enforced this. It was a sacred duty, but that doesn't mean it was cold or resentful. Hosting a guest was an honor, and it could be the beginning of a lifelong or even multi-generational bond. It brought kleos, glory, to your household. A lot of modern people struggle with this because we are taught that obligation kills meaning. But for the ancient Greeks, obligation enabled relationships. So when modern people try to understand Charis, they can run into this sort of wall. Some people hear reciprocity and obligation and they think, okay, it's formal, it's structured, it's only about doing the right thing. So they strip all the warmth from it and it gets treated like a contract. Other people hear grace and delight and they think, okay, it's about love, it's about feeling connected, and obligation would ruin that. So they strip all the structure from it, and this one gets treated like a feeling. But Charis was both, at the same time, held together. The charities, the graces, are depicted holding hands or wrists in an unbroken chain. That image is not decorative, it's showing us the fundamental truth. Gratitude, beauty, and reciprocity are inseparable. You can't have one without the others without turning it into something else entirely. If you're practicing Hellenic polytheism and struggling with this and asking yourself, am I doing this because I want to or because I have to? The answer the ancient Greeks would give you is yes, both. Obligation is not the enemy of connection, it's the form the connection takes. When you're pouring a libation, you're doing something you ought to do, and that doesn't make it any less meaningful. It makes it more meaningful because you're participating in something that has structure, continuity, and sacred weight. It helps to think of a tradition not as a set of rules, but as a shared language. Just like you can't have a conversation without the structure of language, you can't have a tradition without the structure of its principles. When we choose to step into this practice, we are joining a conversation that's been going on for thousands of years. I also want to be really clear about something because I think that this can get lost sometimes. No one is under any obligation to worship the Greek gods. Not every human on earth has a duty to practice Hellenic polytheism. But when you choose this religion, when you say, I'm a Hellenic polytheist, I honor these gods, I practice this tradition, obligation gets introduced. Not as something imposed on you from the outside, but as something inherent to the tradition you've chosen to join. And I personally think this is where a lot of modern practitioners can get stuck. Some people want the tradition in name alone, the aesthetics, the god names, the altars, and the feeling of being part of something ancient and beautiful. But this is often without realizing that what's being stripped away is what makes it a tradition to begin with. And that's a choice you can make. I just think it's important to be honest about what that choice is. When you remove the structure, the reciprocity, and the sense of duty and time, what you're left with isn't Hellenic polytheism as the ancient Greeks understood it. It may be spiritually meaningful to you, and that's fine. It just doesn't resemble what the ancient Greeks practiced. And yes, modern practice will always be different in some ways. We don't sacrifice animals, we don't have a city-state civic religion, etc. But there's a difference between adapting a tradition to fit modern circumstances and removing its foundational principles entirely. Hellenic polytheism is a religion that has history, sources, and principles that shaped how people understood and practiced it. If you're going to engage with that history, I think it's important to engage with what it actually was rather than avoiding everything except the parts that feel comfortable. And this is something that makes this especially striking to me. The ancient Greeks did not choose this religion, they were born into it. It was the fabric of their society and their understanding of the cosmos. Participation was not really optional in any practical sense. So, if anyone had a reason to feel burdened by obligation, wouldn't it be them and not us? And yet, the records show them filling their poetry with hymns of beauty and praise, and religious celebrations that were sources of joy, pride, and communal belonging. They didn't act like they were enslaved by the gods. They didn't perform sacrifices begrudgingly while wishing they could opt out. They didn't see ritual as a chore they had to finish before they could go have fun. We, on the other hand, are choosing this freely. No one's making us do this, and we could walk away at any time. And somehow we're the ones that are uncomfortable with obligation. We're the ones that want to strip out structure and hierarchy. I really think that should tell us something about how much modern assumptions have distorted our understanding of these things.